Mayor Aaron has been sick with bronchitis for over a week now, so he left it to me to step up and do the intro. He gave me the specific instruction that it must only last 3 minutes and 17 seconds in honor of today's review of Aliyah from Basic Series 137, which is funny because 317 and 137 are the same numbers, just in different order. Maybe this was by design? Super weird. So what I am going to do today is take 3 minutes and 17 seconds to rant about all the misdoings with the women's division on this past week's Raw. Start the timer. So let's start off with this past week's Monday Night Raw anniversary show. The show started with Hulk Hogan doing a usual pump up the crowd babyface promo. At least I think that's what he was doing. It was hard to tell because the mic kept cutting out. One thing is for sure though, that microphone was working harder than Hogan has in 30 years. The less said about him the better. Let's talk about how the women were treated on this night. The much anticipated, highly advertised steel cage match between Bayley and Becky Lynch never even got started. Becky was attacked by Damage Control and was deemed incapable of competing by the officials. This was apparently the result of the Bloodline segment going over time. But if the WWE writers and producers know anything about Roman Reigns, they should know everything involving him goes too long. I mean, look at his entrance for example. Next time he makes an entrance before a match or segment, get out the stopwatch and try not to fall asleep. I just hope one day I can love something as much as Paul Heyman loves to hear himself talk. But I'm not trying to hate on the Bloodline too much because it's at least entertaining, even if it is predictable. And I'm sure Roman being the quote top guy isn't going to change anytime soon, considering it took him years of failed pushes to finally get over. But to me, same old boring Roman. That's right, I just acknowledged the tribal chief as being boring. But what about canceling out some of the later in the night segments to make time for the women's cage match? The Degeneration X segment would have been the best choice to cancel. I mean, how lame is it to see some of the original DX members come out all old and frail and try to act like rebellious teenagers? At their age, they need to worry less about being cool and more about collecting Social Security. I got 2 words for you: past prime. And I wish they would quit having Ric Flair introduce Charlotte. I want them to break her as far away from her dad as possible. She has built a career all on her own, and is one of, if the most influential women in wrestling today. She changed the game and busted her butt to do it. All no thanks to him. Speaking of Rick, I wonder when his last match will be. I'm glad that Bianca Belair was featured on this night, but couldn't help but feel her match with Sonya Deville was rushed and cut short. It had a strange abrupt ending. Oh well, we did get a cameo from Alundra Blaze, which was something. And you will never guess what creative segment she was in. An APA poker game. I mean, was this the same show as the Raw 25th anniversary? Also, where were the Bellas? Nikki and Brie were advertised on promotional items for the show. They actually took to IG Live after the show and criticized the lack of any mention of the women's evolution. WWE is still butthurt over Sasha's departure and Paige being in AEW, but the women had to battle so hard to create an evolution, one that WWE all but forgot on this show. One thing is for sure, LumberJillville will never forget, and here in LJV the women take the front seat and get the love and respect they deserve. I am afraid that Vince is back and has his finger in the creative pudding once again, which is absolutely terrifying. He has shown to be out of touch with not only reality, but out of touch with what is good content in today's wrestling. Let's hope he doesn't show up anytime soon. Triple H does a good job of pushing the women's talent. He is largely responsible for giving some amazing women from NXT their time to shine. He just needs to retire the DX gimmick. So in short, Raw XXX should have been named Raw. The women deserve better, and this weekend's Royal Rumble better have them highlighted with how amazing they are. Duck face deuces everyone. Kome or Alexa out.
Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. And welcome to today's very exciting review of the brand new WWE Basic Series 137 Aliyah in her debut figure. Now, us women's wrestling figure fans have been waiting years to get an Aliyah figure, so I'm so happy to have it in front of me today. As a matter of fact, at the end of 2021, I made a wish list of sorts as to what women's wrestling figures I wanted to see for 2022, and an Aliyah Basic was on there. Now, it is 2023, but it's close enough to 2022 to count, and I'm just super stoked and excited to have it here in LumberJillville. Truth being told, I actually had to pre-order the entire Basic Series 137 just to get this figure here quicker. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, by the way, side note. But yeah, she is on back order right now on Ringside Collectibles until like March, and I did have a pre-order with those. But I wanted to get this figure here ASAP and give y'all a first look at it. So with that being said, let's take a closer look at this figure. Alright, so let's start off the packaging here. Now, I'm going to point out something I noticed when I first saw images of the packaging online. And that's that this image that they used for Aliyah looks a little off. It almost looks like a different woman, right? There's something about this image that really doesn't look like her, in my opinion. I don't know if they digitally touched it up or photoshopped it or did something to it, but I mean, it kind of looks like Aliyah, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. It's hard to explain. I mean, that's a very minor issue, not a huge deal. Honestly, especially because we're going to open this up today. Now, I do love the red and black theme with this blue stripe on this basic packaging. And then we have the little yellow line that says first time in the line. Very cool. Turning it around, we have that image. You see what I mean? Like, I don't know, something about that image. It doesn't look too much like Aliyah. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. But all I care about is the figure, so it's all good. Here we have the signature moves on the back. We also have her classified as a grappler. And then we have the rest of the set, which I have out in my kitchen right now because I had to order it to get this figure. Now, that being said, let's open it up. And let's just do that right now. WWE Basic Series 137 Aliyah in her debut figure. This attire is from the November 19th, 2021 edition of SmackDown Live in Hartford, Connecticut. On this night, Aliyah and Naomi would lose to Shayna and Natty in a tag team match. Alright, so my first impressions of this figure, I'm going to be honest with you, I think it looks even better in person. Now, mind you, I usually pre-order multiple of a figure and choose the best one to review. This is the only one that I got in my order since I had to order the whole set. But it looks like the scan and everything is on there great, and yeah, it's actually kind of stunning how good it looks in hand. Now, that being said, let's take a closer look at that face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt. So this face scan and sculpt is amazing. It's even better in person. In my opinion, having it in front of me, it looks tons better than even the images that I saw online. It looks super lifelike, and I'm actually blown away with how good it is. And not only is that scan excellent, and I love the detail of the lips and the angles of the lips there, but she has a very unique face shape, and they did an excellent job on the sculpt to give her defined cheeks, and just the overall shape of her face is pretty spot on. I mean, this is one of the best sculpts and scans I've seen in a while for these women's wrestling figures, honestly, and I can't say enough good about it. Yeah, it's fantastic. It blew me away. I did not expect it to be this good. Now, let's move on to that hair sculpt because it is super cool. Obviously, we have that high, I guess, ponytail type thing with the curls throughout that are sculpted very nice, and the color they used is kind of like a caramel brown. You know, she tends to have like a brownish hair color with highlights, and they kind of went in between and just had it be one solid color, and it works okay. You know, down the road it'd be great to see some highlights, some root colors, and everything else in these women's wrestling figures, but I think this color that they chose to use does look really good. And the fact that this sculpt is so intricately sculpted and unique to her is awesome. So yeah, as far as this head goes, with the hair and the face, I mean, I can't say enough good about it. Like I said, I'm blown away. Alright, so moving on down to the body sculpt and the attire. So this body sculpt looked pretty new to me, and I sat and compared it to a lot of women's basic figures that I've got over the last year or two, and I couldn't really find a figure where the torso matched up perfectly with what they used here on Aliyah. So this might be a new torso midsection piece for the women's basics, But either way, whether it was used before or this is the first time seeing it, here it works tremendously for Aliyah. I wasn't too sure when I was looking online with images if it really fit her build. She's very slender, very slim, very athletic. But I can tell you in hand that this torso works great, and it really does capture her physique. And yeah, I think they did a good job here with this piece here. I think the arms and the legs are good part choices. And obviously what really stands out is this baby blue attire. Now, the one thing I am going to say is I wish it was like a shiny, the material of the attire in real life was kind of like a pleather type material, and I wish we would have got a little shine to this paint. But I think it looks great for what it is. So looking at the top here, it is just painted on with blue. We have white accents and black trim around those white accents. All the way in the back, the straps are painted on. We have these arm sleeves that are painted blue with white accents and black trim around there. Paint goes up into her hand. Moving on down to the bottoms, we have the silver A in the front, and we have her bottoms painted on with kind of like that garter painted on. Now, that's one thing. Blue kind of overlaps. Looks a little bit sloppy, but if you're looking at it from a distance, it's hard to tell. She has baby blue knee pads, and here's what's really cool. She has her signature boots, and these things are great. These are beautiful, beautiful boots. Yeah, I know that's such a random thing to say, but I don't know, it adds a lot of character to this figure. So as far as the body sculpt and attire goes, I mean, like I said, this body sculpt, I wasn't sure when I saw images online, but having it in hand, I think it works tremendously. Whether it's been used before or if this is the first time they've used it, it works for Aliyah, and they did a fine job with part choices. And this attire is gorgeous. Alright, so I usually don't cover articulation for basics, but you know what? We got some time, so let's do it. The head can move pretty good to the right, pretty good to the left. Not a whole lot of up and down movement. Shoulders on a ball joint and has full range of motion. She has a single hinge at the elbow, can bend about 90 degrees. She can swivel her wrist. She has a waist swivel. The hip is on a ball joint and has pretty good range here. She has a single jointed knee, but just like the basics, it's very tight. You really have to push hard to get it to bend. She has a boot swivel here. And that's it as far as articulation goes. Alright, so I just want to do some real quick fun fig photography with the tag team of Raquel Rodriguez and Aliyah. They won the Women's Tag Team Championships unexpectedly, and it's really cool that we can form that team now. This might be how I display them, honestly, on my shelves. This is really cool. Now, check out the LumberJillville Instagram page. I am going to do some fig photography with the women's tag team titles in these two together, so I'm real excited to do that this week. But I just wanted to show you real quick how cool these two look together, and I'm really glad we can form this team. Alright, so overall, I give WWE Basic Series 137 Aliyah an overall score of a 9.8 out of 10. This figure blew my expectations out of the water, and when I saw the final released images of what this figure was going to look like online, they did not do this figure justice whatsoever. I'm going to be honest with you. Having it in hand, it is breathtaking. It is an amazing likeness to Aliyah, and it is a fantastic figure. I am so glad that I pre-ordered the whole set just to get her early, because this figure is even more amazing than I thought it was going to be, and I freaking love it. Now, the only reason it's not a perfect score is I wish there was a little bit more sculpted detail in the attire. Now, with her, this painted on attire does work. She wears very form-fitting, tight attire, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of sculpted detail. But with that being said, this is truly one of the best women's basics I've ever reviewed, and this likeness, this face sculpt and face scan, along with that hair, I don't know many that are better than it. But like I said, this figure is 100% better in person, so I highly suggest if you're a fan of Aliyah or you're a fan of women's wrestling, run, don't walk to Ringside Collectibles, place yourself a pre-order, use code LJV at checkout, and secure this figure because it's amazing. So I am finally getting over this dumb illness. I'm starting to get back on my feet here, starting to get more energy. My voice is coming back. So I'm happy to say that the Jillies Award Show will take place the first weekend in February. So if you're watching this video the day that it drops, a week from today, I'll be posting the Jillies Award Show, highlighting the best of women's wrestling figures in 2022, where a lot of the categories were voted on by a lot of y'all. So I'm real excited to go over those results and announce some winners. Now, that being said, thank you for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. For a first look at all future women's wrestling figures, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Also, head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com and use coupon code LJV and checkout to save 10% on your next order of women's wrestling figures. With that being said, stay safe and have a great night, y'all.